Why, hello there. How are you doing? Yeah. All that. Wow.
Oh, I know what that is. I'm sorry. That's me.
Episode 99.
It's like,
99 problems
me,
with
I'm
Danny's audio ain't one.
no,
Oh
Danny's
my God.
audio clearly
Maybe
is
the chat is right. I'm so sorry. I was looking at the chat. I was laughing at the chat. Didn't realize that I had YouTube on in the background because I was copying links for the socials and stuff. But maybe I am a little too high tonight. Maybe. Who knows?
Is there
Hey,
such a
Morgan
thing?
might just know me way too well.
That could be. It could be. I think we all know you pretty well, but we love you. We love you very much. So it's me. It's PLD, and I'm here with two lovely ladies as well. My work wife, Danny Joy. How are you doing today, girl?
I'm good. I'm good.
I think we know actually how we're doing. How you're doing at this point, don't we? Lots of fun as always. I love you. I love you. And joining us today is someone who works a lot for this channel. She's been on the channel for a long time tonight already, but she's still here because she's that damn dedicated. She's finding her way through Airbnb, the different places so that she can stream. A lot of work has gone into it. So I give her my little clap, my golf clap, my salute. Alex Mack, how are you doing today?
I'm exhausted AF. That's okay. We're going to a new Airbnb very soon, and here in a few days. I have no Wi-Fi. That's why I'm here at my mom's condo, and she has really great Wi-Fi, so that's what matters. So I'm like, boss, I'm kind of looking to just hang out with some pretty awesome people, some of my good friends.
Not all heroes wear capes, Alex. Not all heroes wear capes. Speaking of that, behind the scenes, we have one of the only guys that could put up with me for long. And he pisses me off a lot. He fights me a lot. He calls me names, but I know it's out of love. He'll deny it. But I thank Jake Yakoveta for always giving his best for everything.
Shut the fuck up.
That's what I want. That's his love language. That's what it is.
It is. Very true.
Hey, look at that. I already got super chat in there. Andreas, good to see you, my brother. Hey guys, you know who I am. You know what this is. You know what this is for. After show shenanigans, that always is a good time. That is always a good time.
I will say there has never ever been a person that we've talked about most in our private group chats. Mostly Andres just discussing how to pronounce your last name.
That is true, because we had different people tell us different things the entire time, and we all thought it was one way. We all thought it was the other. We finally got it cleared up. Andres Gallego. And we're good now. We're good now. We're finally good. We're finally good. That's what we're going to go with. And there's no S. There's no S.
The only confirmation that I have is that there's no S.
Wait, it's not called Galaghost?
That's what it was.
Is it Gallego or is it Gallego?
Is
there a Y sound or is there not? Is that L a double Y? Gallego. Okay, thank you.
I always have to, every time I read your name, for a split second, I have to remind myself, I have to pronounce it almost like Guy, as in G-U-Y. And so that's like my thought process when reading it. So I'm like, a guy. And so, but once I have that first part down, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how you do it. So,
I think my problem honestly is the fact that I always read his handle, so I go Galaghost, and I get the S from that. That's where it is, I guess. But
that association makes complete sense. You're not wrong.
Look, I'm gonna go ahead and say, because the ghost is at the end of it, is why I assumed it was Gallegos, because it rolls off the tongue.
Danielle, you're wrong.
This is way too much into Andres' last name. I'm so sorry. Everyone should. It's out of respect. Please understand that this is out of respect, Andres. Like, we're just trying to make sure that we pronounce your name right.
We love him. I love hanging out here. He's one of my best friends in the community. I think he's a great guy. Real quick, I just want to address this. Yes, it is very late. We decided to go late tonight because Schmoebaits always goes by. We have so many guests on Schmoebaits. It's always hard to wrangle down the different guest appearances by all our different community members and everything else. So we got to go with what they can do. So when they said they could do Saturday at our time, we said, all right, we'll just push the call live back. Why not? Because I got nothing to do. We'll just do it late. It's all good. Yeah. So
that's why you get this tonight.
And love getting that. Love getting that. And actually, it's funny. Yes, it is almost chilled action. It's almost. It's Kelsey with the brunette hair. Then you got there you go, pretty much.
You got the eyeshadow and everything. Absolutely.
I do feel like it is an easy target anytime Paul and I are both on anything, because then you can call anything Paul and I are both on chilled action.
We could be anything. If we appeared on like John Roca show. It'd be like Chilled Outlaw Nation or something. It'd be
Oh
like,
my gosh. I just thought of something.
John Roca's not
Chill-
ready for that.
No, a chilled
Banana.
action schmobate.
ooh.
Paul's not ready for that.
That's what
Paul's
you
not
think.
ready.
That's what you think.
No.
Maybe it'll have to happen someday. A little Chilled Action Civil War.
Don't even. Don't even get this started. This is the reason why we've been
Kelsey,
working it for
Kelsey
so
will be the
long.
co-host, okay? Kelsey will be the co-host. She'll be one of the judges.
But anyway,
That
let's
would
get to
end.
why we're
That would
here.
end the podcast.
Let's get to
And that's how C2A just broke. They just
up
stopped.
entirely.
Oh, no.
That conversation was our Yoko.
We're obviously in a giggly mood. We're in a silly mood. Some of us have worked over hard. Some of us have worked on other things, and it's all sorts of fun and dandy. But let's get to where we are talking about here. We're talking about the Schmoedown, of course. We had a great match this week, play-in match for the tournament. The teams of the Misfits versus the Witching Power. We did do a breakdown. Alex and, of course, our lovely statistician, Megs, did a breakdown with Adam Witt. So go find that on the channel if you want a full, in-depth breakdown. We figured we'd talk about it a little bit as well because, Dan and I didn't get our say on it. And Alex could always add more to it. What did you think about this one, Danny?
I was actually pretty surprised about this match. I genuinely also spoilers for the play-in match. For anyone who hasn't watched it, please go watch it first or enjoy the spoilers. I definitely thought that the Misfits were going to take this. I was very surprised to see what the outcome was from it, but really, truly, I wrote down a bunch of notes for this match because it really could have gone any way throughout the entire round one. Round two definitely could have gone either way. It was enough to see a fucking 6 or 8 point deficit going into round two to round three.
Yeah.
Those round three questions for the Misfits were fucking hard as shit. Holy moly,
Dude.
Holy moly. All three of all of them. I don't think that they were necessarily hard. I think that it was just the 3 point question, the Lakeith Stanfield and Issa Rae question. I knew the movie. I couldn't get the title. It was just one of those things. And that was just what it felt like throughout the entire run of the match for the Misfits. It just completely felt like what happened throughout their entire match was just not being able to catch it. Adam Witt missing the Margot Robbie question was a tough one for me to watch because I had the same mindset, like, oh, maybe it's a trick question. Like, what? I've only seen that movie twice. Like, I can't really remember anything. Twice, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, I felt like it could have been a trick question that Margot Robbie was the wife. It felt too easy in that point. I don't know. Okay, what are y'all thoughts?
I get that. Alice, what do you want? Give us your thoughts.
Well, that's the thing. I have several points to say. That one, for that 2-pointer question, he legitimately didn't know the answer. He actually mentioned that he's just like, he couldn't pull her name. He's like that chick that plays Harlequin, but I don't know it. So it wasn't so much, he didn't think of it as a trick question or anything like that. He just legitimately, he knew the face, not the name. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting match because also not only it felt like a good omen from the get-go because both of them, they ended up scoring 13 or 14 points in the first round. What a great start to the second round. But also they ended up getting a strength with the directors. The directors category is a very hit and miss category, but they went into it choosing that category. That was the strength that they put on the wheel. And that's always like pretty consistently, unless you're Paul Preston, the directors or Ethan Irwin, the directors category can really kick you right in the tuchus, because any genre, any decade, you just don't know what you're going to get.
You get either you know it or you don't. It's one of those things that's not one that you can pull. I thought this match proved one thing I want to say that it proved to me. It kind of proved some of the weaknesses that the Witching Power could have. For example, that second round, they spun Kurt Russell. neither of them had any clue about it in a way.
Yo,
my gosh.
I want to take a second to talk about this Kurt Russell category because it like when if I'm on there and quick side note, a couple of years ago I started a Twitter with my ex-boyfriend over disaster movies because it was during Hurricane Harvey. It was during Hurricane Harvey. We did nothing but watch disaster movies. So we started this Twitter account. I fucking love disaster movies just in general. That's a great category of a movie. So to see it on the wheel was so much fun for me. I know it's been fun before. Still, either way, that I know it's been on the wheel for a long time. I love that category, and I feel like between that category and Kurt Russell, if I'm before watching this match, if I'm sitting back and I'm thinking to myself, what category would I rather take? Would I rather take disaster movies or Kurt Russell? Kurt Russell, honestly, kind of part of me feels like Kurt Russell might be something that feels easier. But yo, those Kurt Russell questions were fucking rough. Those were, so, in my opinion, look, okay, here's the thing. I'm so glad that you all made those faces because here's my opinion about what you all are versus what I am as a movie watcher. Paul, you're an old dude. Kurt Russell, no offense.
Wow, just like this, like, boom, boom.
He's been a working actor since the 60s, y'all. His movie range is so
as a child. Mm-hmm.
It's fucking wild. He's been working in movies for a long time. He's a prominent Disney actor. That's someone whose movies that if you're making just questions for like a Disney category, you can just look at Kurt Russell's first half of his movie career and just go off of that basically. So Kurt Russell, in my opinion, has a very wide range. I've honestly never seen any single fucking movie that these Kurt Russell questions were about. And you all are like, Alex, you compete in movie trivia. You like to
that's the thing.
All of that stuff. So all of that. And I don't necessarily go and I watch older movies. Mm-hmm. The only movie that I can remember from this whole pick was Backdraft. I thought that this Kurt Russell category was fucking rough.
Well, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2.
That was the only easy question.
Okay. That to me legit felt like a 1 point if I ever heard one, but it doesn't matter. Okay, yeah. So I definitely agree with you. If you were familiar, I think I'm not familiar with Kurt Russell movies. Thing is, I did grow up casually with them. I watched them with my dad a lot. Tombstone, Maverick, Fox and the Hound. Fox and the Hound Fox and the Hound was one of my favorite animated movies growing up, and Kurt Russell was a voice of one of those characters.
Yeah, and Fox and the Hound is a pretentious movie to put into the Kurt Russell category because I didn't find that out until I was fucking in my 20s.
But all those movies, all the questions, it's kind of funny because all those questions that were asked, you could have picked the answer based off the poster. Robin Williams' face is right on the movie poster. It's bigger than Kurt Russell's. Backdraft. Come on. It was very surface level questions for them. But yeah, I do agree with you. There's so many movies that people forget about Kurt Russell. They think of like maybe the core 10, but they don't. How many do they really know? There's so many secret movies that people forget about when it comes to actors like that. But I feel like that, really apply that mentality towards a lot of directors, a lot of actors in general that are on the wheel that have their slice.
Now, you did say I'm an old guy, and I get it. And I am an older guy. I fully admit that. And you're not wrong, because I got to see a snippet, some of your breakdown, Alex. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I did remember this point where Alex,
and Paul,
where Adam Witt kind of, that's me. There you go. I got no hair left now.
Excuse me when I walk with my VCR.
Wow.
With my human computer. VHS DVD with Kurt Russell.
I can't honestly, to be fair, Paul, I can't think of a single technological thing. Like I can't make fun of you for not necessarily knowing how TikTok works because you kind of.
I can't figure out TikTok.
I do it now.
I can't figure out. I was taught TikTok, but I don't really get it. Like, I don't care about the dancing. Like, I was taught Snapchat, but I'm like, why don't you just text them?
Well,
Like they have 90% of the time they have the filters anyway, but you know,
no one knows
that's
TikTok.
another conversation.
No one knows.
For another time.
That's the gift that keeps on.
I was wondering why the background.
We're talking TikTok. That's my favorite TikTok thing of all time. So I got to go back to that one.
Look at this. No,
Bold.
I got to put that on TikTok. I'll do that on TikTok.
I would like to retire this meme. I would love to retire.
I did do that one.
Ed Harris, Paul Denuzio, marrying meme, and I would like to suggest that we just completely put in. Hold on, let me find it. Let me find it. Nope. I know it's here. I just saw it.
This is meant to be insulting, but I'm getting incredibly aroused looking at my husband. So, you know, joke's on y'all. Okay.
Someone absolutely deleted this. Someone deleted the PLD Rachel one because I know it was up there.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, I don't know how that happened.
I know it was there. I literally just saw it and I was laughing at it before we started. And it's not there.
Jake?
So I'm going to blame Paul.
Oh,
I blame Jake.
I'm
going to blame Paul. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Let's get back to the Schmoedown.
Regardless, back to Schmoedown.
Hello. Hi. Welcome to the Schmoedown podcast.
Right back to the Kurt Russell question. I did see the Alex's breakdown, and Adam kind of said the similar type thing. He said it was like a man movie, an old man movie. And it is, because Kurt Russell does a lot of old man movies at that point. I knew most of them because I'm an old man. But some of them hurt. But that's why The Witching Power has those weaknesses. That was my initial point, was that I feel like that just showed, I mean, again, it's just one example, and we'll have to see them have more matches before I can really say definitively. But the fact is, neither of them had any idea on it. Now, is that the case? I think their strengths and weaknesses overlap each other too much. I think they know the same things. I think they have the same weaknesses and have the same strengths. And that's not going to help them going forward. They won this match. They were lucky to win this match. That's what I felt like, because they had the Misfits had a great lead. They were doing really well. I think the round 3 questions for The Witching Power were pretty easy, I thought.
Thank you.
They did.
Thank you.
Dumb and Dumber.
Billy Idol?
Billy Idol, Billy Zane in Titanic. These are all very solidly, like, well-known type things, I thought. And I was like, is it just me?
Those felt like pretty consistently 2-pointers. Like Lucas, he doesn't care about movies. He doesn't watch movies, like looking at the details. And he's like, oh yeah, that dude Billy Zane that was also like coincidentally in Zoolander. So he's like Billy Zane is that guy for him, I guess. But yeah, they are like 2 women that kind of grew up in the 90s. And so I don't know about decades. It's very difficult to categorize as a strength overall, but
when it's your growing up,
definitely but it's definitely an easier category compared to, like, say 70s or I don't know, dramas.
We all, grow up to a point. We get to a point where we're adults and we don't. Things don't stick as well as they used to. And not even just an age joke here. I'm not even saying it's an old man thing. But when you're young and you're younger and you go to the movies, you have those recollections of your childhood. Growing up in the 90s, you know Titanic very well. You know Dumb and Dumber very well. You know The Wedding Singer very well. Those are things that are going to come to you. Who
doesn't know Titanic? Also, they're like arguably some of the best movies of the decade. Who doesn't know Dumb and Dumber, and who doesn't know Billy, like the absolute best Adam Sandler movie ever?
Arguably, yeah. But then you compare that with the Misfits had. Again, we talked about it, and you're right. They had 3 harder questions. I didn't know the photograph question, but that's a new release I just haven't heard of yet. I knew that they were in a movie together, but I didn't know the name of it.
Their 5-pointer was also, I don't want to say I don't like it wasn't a trick question, but I feel like it was a very difficult especially difficult question for them, because they didn't say 2019 movie or 2018. They didn't say recent releases. They just said what recent movie.
Recent crime film is what they said.
Zipper mentioned that he's like, technically, does that mean in the last 2 years or the last 3 years? And he ended up picking like Den of Thieves, and ended up being a movie from like 2.5 years ago.
The answer was Den of Thieves. He picked, something else.
You're right. But that's from like 2.5 years ago.
2018.
That was what?
2018.
Question.
That's not recent.
Do you all feel like that's a question that could have been challenged if you wanted to? If you all were competitors with the opinions that you have on it, with the wording of the question, do you all feel like that could have been something that could have been challenged?
I'd say my initial answer is no, only because with the pandemic and the fewer releases in 2020, they already kind of made it. They've already kind of said that they've expanded new releases to a degree in a way. Now, is it a recent release? It's not really, but I think with where we had set as like has been dictated in past practice, I think it would be something you could challenge, but I think it would be tossed out. That's my thought. It's like one of the things that could be done, that be tossed out.
I will say I totally agree. I was actually one of my competitors was asked in a match recently. I was so proud of him. He did so amazing. He defended his title, but another conversation for another time. But so the question was specifically, the answer was taxi driver, and the other person just put driver. That's not the same thing. Taxi driver is not the same thing as truck driver or limo driver or whatever may be. You can't you can't really compare them. And so it's like saying a surgeon is the same thing as a professor in a college with a PhD. They're both technically have doctorates. But you go to one for a degree and you go to the other for a medical reason. They're very different. You have to specify that. Now, no, I kind of apply that reasoning specifically towards this. That was not it is a question. It is a solid question. But if you are going with a vague question like that, you try to include a year. What 2018 film has the following actors? The following actors are all part of an ensemble are part of what 2018 crime film? Because the word recent is so ambiguous. For some people, that means recent releases. That could be in the past year, or it could be in the past 3 years. To me, 2018 is not recent in any way, shape, or form.
So, Alex, challenge that question.
That's like, I know I would want to challenge it just because it's the last question. What other opportunity we have? But I know it would be thrown out because that's just like, it's still a solid question. It's just not. It doesn't feel like a thought out, well executed question.
Although I think I would argue, I could argue from the other way. I think maybe it was purposely done because I feel like the question writers have gotten very PJ and crew. I love PJ and his crew. Honestly, I think they've been trying to write questions a little more cleverly in order to make them more ambiguous in a way. For example, somebody brought up in the chat, and I was going to bring it up but I couldn't at the time. They did not mention Gerald Butler. Jerry B. Not mentioned. Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler was the star of this movie. Like, if it's it was a Gerard Butler movie.
5-point question, right?
It was a 5-point question. Yeah. So it was a great thing for them not to include the star.
Sure.
That makes it more tricky.
Or the year.
And maybe that's the idea too. Instead of
saying, no, absolutely. That's the thing. If you are going to be vague, a little more vague in one aspect, you have to give a wee bit. Question. Yes, even in a 5-point question, if you're going to be vague on one side, you have to give a slight more definition in the other, just a little bit. Like I said,
I technically don't think so when it comes to a 5-point question in the Schmoedown.
Well, that's the thing. Exactly. Recent isn't the same as new releases.
Exactly.
And new releases in 2019.
Yes. But hypothetically, yes. So hypothetically, if they said crime movie, he's also participated in several. I understand that it's a great question, but it's still a 5-question. It's still a 5-pointer if you say 2018 because everyone else is not a well-known actor.
I don't think so. I think if you give away the year, it's just giving away a tiny bit too much for it. So I think
that would give away
that not
published writer participated in 3 crime movies that year.
Elevate it to a 5-point question.
Let me ask.
Then it does kind of dilute it a little bit because if you are doing what you need to do, your due diligence inside of the Schmoedown and studying in the way that you need to, then you kind of would already know the year by osmosis way. But
let me interject and ask you a question. Let me ask a question real quick. Let me ask a real quick question about this. What we said the difference between new releases and recent. What is the difference to you, Alex, between new releases and recent? It's like what
recent. Okay, recent releases specifically under Schmoedown is within 17 months. Totally understand that.
Isn't it 2 years?
As far I was told, it was 17 months. I was told it was 17 months.
For recent or for new releases? For new releases?
New releases. Sorry. Recent, there is no hardcore definition. Like I said, to me, recent means this year.
Oh, wow.
To me, that means Scoob. That means Troll World Tour. Like, I don't think of 2019 as recent.
So you think recent is like more specific?
Yes. Well, that's on my mindset around it, because that's my personal definition. However, not everyone has the same definition of new releases versus recent. Now, hypothetically, if competitors had been given that definition, if competitors knew ahead of time, recent could mean 2 or 3 years, heck, 5 years. It doesn't, whatever it may be. Then that would make it a little more easier. But recent doesn't really mean anything.
That's interesting, because that's my
easier though.
These are actors that are not known for doing anything all that much. They're more for TV.
Schmoedown easier though.
I stand by it. You know, these are, I understand. It's still a very, very hard question, even if you mention 2017 or 2018, or if you say 2020, or if you just say what recent release crime movie has like the following actors. It's still a very, very hard question because they made no money.
That's interesting to say. I mean,
people don't really know about it.
You say that, because honestly speaking, like, my initial instinct would be that new releases would be, I'd say 18 months, especially with the pandemic. But for me, recent would go back for 3 years, 3 or 4 years would be recent to me as far as time frame goes.
I see that.
So like that's an interesting way. So I don't know if we do need to define it more or not. I mean, I guess you have to understand things at the question.
I'm the opposite on that. When I think of new releases versus recent, I think new releases for the Schmoedown would go farther back in a category.
I could totally see that, but I need someone to tell me, if we're going to treat Schmoedown like a sport, we need definition. We need specific, explicit rules. We don't have that for these points, where the questions are incredibly subjective. So we cannot treat it at this subjective. We need rules as far as what new releases mean.
Sure. That's an interesting point. I guess I don't. I get what you're saying. I'm not sure I agree, but I don't know if I have anything else to say against it at this point. But it's a good argument to have, and I guess I could definitely see your points on it. It'd be interesting to see what someone like a PJ would say about that. I kind of like the idea though, the 5-pointer you get as vague as possible. Like 5-pointer makes. I knew the answer. I knew the answer myself as a 5-pointer. Granted, I liked it. I watched it in the and I liked it in the but I know Pablo Schreiber's in that movie. I know O'Shea Jackson's in that movie. So I was like, oh, this is definitely a crime film. Oh, yeah, definitely 10%. So I knew it. And I was surprised. Actually, got surprised that they didn't. But I like being more vague in 5-point questions to me. As long as they are equally as vague. They are
versus the Billy Idol question, which is the most obvious 2-pointer I've ever heard.
Right, because not only this, I mean, what's going to make a cameo appearance?
2-point question.
That's a 2-pointer if I ever heard one.
Exactly.
It's a famous.
Yeah, that's a 2-pointer. It's
because there's some cameos that are not famous that you're kind of okay. I can see that being a 5-pointer, but in this case, it was pretty much a very famous who it was. But he was
exactly. If it was like Morrissey or something, or a little more obscure, or Tom Waits or whatever, yeah, totally. But it's like a whole thing in the movie where it's referenced later on.
Right. It's a plot point a lot of times. Sometimes people make cameos and you don't even know who they're in the movie. That's more of a 5-pointer. It's an
80s specific movie. It's very easy to kind of just determine who could have. It's an 80s specific movies. It's an 80s specific movie that was filmed in the late 90s. So
Daniel Craig cameo.
It's a period film. It's a period film.
Like, who's still alive around that time that could be relevant and popular around for an 80s set movie?
That's still very easy.
Like, even if you did had to do some sort of like deductive reasoning behind it, you could still kind of come to fucking Billy Idol. So it's not that hard of a question, but I want to say I can feel. What was that, the 3 or the 5?
That's a 5-pointer.
That was that's the only that makes sense in a way, because I don't feel like that's necessarily a 5. I don't feel like that's a 5-pointer question. I also don't kind of feel like it's a 2-pointer. I would feel comfortable more in a 3-point range, because when I was watching this, could have been my state of mind. I've watched this match twice. Both times slightly inebriated. So it could have been that. It could have been that where I couldn't come up with the name instantly, but the face is like right there. The movie, like, I want to grow old with you. Like that whole scene is in my brain while it's there. So I don't agree that it's a 5-point question. I truly do not believe that should have been considered a 5-point question. But I don't think it should be a 2. I could, you know what?
I can.
It can be a 2.
Yeah.
It can be a 2.
It can be a 2 or 3. That's just it's incredibly subjective. I know some people in the chat were mentioning, well, maybe if you don't know music and you don't recognize him at all, maybe you wouldn't even realize he's like a pretty well-known thing. But the thing is, it's a whole point. It's like a whole plot point in the movie.
So that's
it really is, even if you don't know who he is.
I feel like that's also a sort of thing with it, because everyone who competed in this is a millennial. So, or a millennial or above. So anyone who grew up in the 90s, who grew up with The Wedding Singer, who knew this question is kind of something that's there. Imagine people who were like 20 years old, in their 20s and stuff like that aren't really into movies, who don't know 80s music the way that we as 90s kids know 80s music. Some like earlier Gen Zs, older Gen Zs, later Gen Zs, whatever. Gen Zs might not even fucking know who Billy Idol is. So maybe like, and this is no tea, no shade, y'all. No tea, no shade in this next statement that's going to come out. Like, what if it's something that Abby put as a 5-point question? Like, you know what I mean? Because is that a 5-point question to Abby and that's a 2-point question to DJ? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know the writing. I don't know everyone in the writing team or anything like that. Like I said, y'all, no tea, no shade to anyone in the writing team. Absolutely, they've been fucking crushing it this year. But I do feel like sometimes with certain questions like this,
it's okay. I think it's okay to talk about the questions as long as you don't complain about it. So we don't complain about it or whatever. I mean, we can I think it's discussing the point value is a fine thing to do. We appreciate them here, and that's fine. We have different opinions on it. It's subjective. I agree with Alex. I mean, with Alex as far as like that. To me, this was a 2-pointer, but I understand why it would be a 3-pointer to somebody else, and I get that. But either way, I think we both agree it's probably not a 5.
It's not a 5.
So I mean,
it's at the end of the day, it's all subjective. All these questions, all these categories are subjective, there's a whole bunch of questions that some of these newer people would consider 1 or 2 pointers, and I'm like, like if you ask me any question regarding Herbie Fully Loaded, nope. They're all 5 pointers for me. All of them are 5 pointers.
Exactly.
They're all 5 pointers for me. If you ask me a question regarding Trolls World Tour, I'm sorry, I got nothing. I don't. That's going to be a 5-pointer. I know Anna Kendrick is in it, and she wears a crown, but that's all I got.
definitely falls in my 6%. That's all I gotta say. But let's say the actually matches itself. Adam Witt and Zipper. I liked them together, and I'm kind of sad that they lost. I wanted to see them do more because I do think they had a lot of potential as a team, and now they're probably not going to be together unless they get drafted together next year. Because I don't think they keep Eric or Adam, to be honest with you. Who knows? Maybe they will. But I do think that they had a lot of potential. I'd love to have seen them go a little bit further. But with this now, we have Perry and Haley going. Their prize, their award for winning this match in the tournament is to go face the Founding Fathers. So this is going to be, I think, honestly, at this point, I think it's a one and done for them. I think this is their win. I don't think they have it. I honestly don't think they have much of a chance to stand up against Ruka and Merle at this point. Anybody disagree on that?
I'm actually rooting for the witching powers in this one.
Rooting is one thing.
So here's the thing when it comes to what's been going on. I don't think anyone should discredit Perry Nemiroff as a competitor at all. Just Perry Nemiroff as a player, like
not at all.
Her as a solo player, put her in teams, put her wherever you want to put her. I think Perry Nemiroff has this godly, like, I wish I could translate this like in sports better the way that I want to, but like the only thing that I can consider Perry Nemiroff as a player, and the only example that's coming up is like Allen Iverson, like just kind of like a loose gun in it. Like, you know that she does good, You know that she's going to do well. You know that she's going to carry whatever she needs to carry and all of that stuff.
She ain't going to practice, though, because that's just practice, right?
She's not going to practice. We're not going to talk about practice.
This is practice.
This was
about this. But here's my thing about Perry and Haley as a team with the witching powers. I think that's a very underrated team because I think what we saw from Haley in this match was pretty phenomenal because Haley did well. We've always known that Haley has done well in the Schmoedown in categories that she's strong in, and we've seen her also do well in categories that we don't know her very well in. We don't know Haley in the Schmoedown, really. We don't. We've seen her in these very small pockets of what she's done, and we've seen the categories that she's done well in. But as a player overall, when it comes to how we've seen Eric Zipper and Adam Witt play in as many matches as they have played in, we haven't seen Haley in that. So Haley is this weird, not weird, but just like this factor that's just kind of sitting behind there with Perry that I truly kind of believe in. Look, like it just really depends on how and what attitude Dan and specifically John Roca goes into this match. Because if they go into it just with, I feel weird and wrong for saying this, but I think that they need to study for this match. I do. I think that they just can't casually walk into this match and expect to beat this team. I don't. I think that there needs to be a slightly bit of let's get ready for this match because these are players that have a bit of a higher factor. There are definitely teams that you can go into and feel like, I can go in with the information that I have and don't have to go deeper into what I know and go forward into whatever tournament that I'm in. That I feel like sometimes there are those situations that absolutely do happen. This situation right now with the witching power versus the founding fathers, I really, truly, truly think that the founding fathers should consider studying a little bit for this match.
Okay.
I don't think that they will lose, but I do think that if they just go in there like, oh, this is the fucking team we're definitely going to win, I think they will lose.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Alice, what do you think? What did you say about that one?
I think they're going to fail so hard, so fast. I think they're going to get PKO'd so quickly. Witching power. 1, their strength. I don't feel like they're a good team. 2, they're great individually, but I don't think they're a good team because their strengths are too similar and their weaknesses are way too similar. Them trying to troubleshoot Kurt Russell was a struggle bus. Okay, I'm gonna say that was my third one. My 4th one is like, okay, Dan Murrell and Roca are already actively studying already. They have been actively studying all year. They don't really need to be in a situation where like, oh, we're going by witching power. Now we got to start studying. That's not going to be the case for them. If anything, they're pretty much going to this match pretty darn comfortable. Okay. It's not so much I am all for the witching. It's like I would love the witching power to pull an upset. I love upsets. It's just, especially after their chemistry, obviously they work together. They are so amazing together. I love them individually. I love them together. But I don't feel like as a team, they're efficient. Their chemistry wasn't there. They were just like, what did you think of? I'm not sure. Did you? They're too similar, honestly. I feel like as competitors, and they need a competitor as a teammate that's going to challenge them to be much more efficient, and also applied a lot of that same mindset towards the Misfits.
I gotta say one thing. I feel like I'm listening to Alex talk about this, and this is going through my head.
I'm not wrong.
I'm agreeing with you. So I don't understand how this is ever happening that I'm agreeing with you. We are on the same page again. This whole episode is bizarro call to action live.
This is weird. I don't like this.
I don't like this at all.
I don't think that the witching power is going to beat the founding fathers. I don't. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that it's not going to be an easy match. And I don't think that the founding fathers should take anything that they do lightly. Are they studying? Are they doing everything that they do? Absolutely. Because they're fucking Schmoedown players that have been doing this for a very long time. Do I agree that the witching power doesn't have chemistry? Absolutely fucking not. them going through what they needed to go through. Like I said, like y'all can talk about Kurt Russell and be as pretentious as you want to be about movies and all of that bullshit that you want to be. That's fucking fine, y'all. That's fine. But those
They don't need to be though.
were tough. Those fucking Kurt Russell questions were tough.
That's fine. Okay, that's absolutely. I totally no. I agree with you.
They know each other. They're going through things. They have worked with each other. So they fucking do shit together all the time.
I absolutely agree.
They don't have chemistry. It's fucking weird to my brain because they work with each other. So how can they not have chemistry? I think that they do have chemistry. I think it's good to argue that they have similarities together because yes, they do. They really do. But also John Roca and Dan Morrell do as well. So they have a lot of similarities that enter there. But there's also a player that is elevated above a certain player in both teams in general movie knowledge. And I think that like whether or not that team has a higher caliber of movie knowledge than the other team, no, I don't agree. I don't necessarily. But when it comes to player have more knowledge than the other player in the team, absolutely. In my opinion, yes, 100%. I do not think that this is going to be an easy win. That's my point for this match. I don't think it's going to be an easy win. There's not going to be a TKO in this match. I don't think that there's going to be a TKO in this match. I agree that the Founding Fathers are going to go on to move on for this tournament. I think that the Founding Fathers have the potential to win this tournament because of the attitude and everything that's gone on with the other tournaments behind it. Yes, 100%. I think they're going to go into it with all of that. But do I think this is?
That's not what I'm arguing here, though. But what I'm arguing is that that's not what I was kind of talking about, though, specifically. It's not the much that they don't have the core knowledge in certain categories like Kurt Russell or directors or certain decades or whatever. That's not the thing. My concern is more how they tried troubleshooting together. They didn't troubleshoot effectively together, and that's what separates a good team. Yeah, absolutely. If you are troubleshooting together as a team, you want to walk each other through it. You want to figure it out and be like, okay, well, I know it's not.
Girl, that's you.
No. If you look at any great team, that's fine. But if you look at any successful team that actually at least has a few wins under the belt, they work on that chemistry. And you can have, I can have chemistry with my dad, or my brother, when it comes, or like Lucas when it comes to, hanging out, whatever. That doesn't mean we're going to have chemistry as a team when it comes to getting movie trivia down.
That doesn't mean that the chemistry you and Lucas have with each other works different than the way that you and your dad work together. So
absolutely, yeah. But as a result, though, their troubleshooting abilities as a team wasn't efficient.
The way that other teams work together, I think, is not a fair way to evaluate this as a team together. Because I just think that's a silly way to compare teams and how they work together and how they communicate with each other, because you don't know, especially with how we have to see things online now. So I actually did write this down in the as a note for something. They talked about having it. So this was going for round 2. I believe for Adam Witt and Eric Zipper's match going into round 2, they talked about having a safe space, being able to go to multiple choice because at that point they were up 14. I think it was 17 to something, wherever it was inside of the match. So what they talked about was having the safe space going into round 2. So they felt like they could go to multiple choice into their round 2, which is where I think they kind of messed up a little bit, because they felt safe in the point lead that they had going in from round 1 to round 2, which is why they decided to go to multiple choice for certain questions, because Eric Zipper had the Angelina Jolie question for, I believe it was the second question. It was who directed
Unbroken.
Who directed Unbroken?
Who directed the war biopic.
Before they went into the
I remember
choice. So with that, like, there's a lot of I'm trying to like connect these dots into going back and transitioning back over to Schmoedown Talk with
I do want to mention though that the thing is I don't want to I'm not here to compare the chemistry between the two different teams, because they have very different styles as teams, and you know, and that's like, and thing is I absolutely agree. But the thing is I do, whereas the Misfits lost, I do feel like they had a little bit better chemistry as a team as far as troubleshooting. I do think if they under the right manager, they could work more efficiently, but they're very similar as far as strengths and weaknesses. And I feel like that was the reason why they fell apart at the very end, unfortunately. And that happens. We're human. Things happen. And same for the Wishing Power. And I say specifically, but for the Witching Power, it's just like I mentioned, they're also two very casual competitors that are going up against seasoned champions. Now, being a casual competitor, like I've said before, and I will continue to say again, that is totally fine. That's awesome. We need casual competitors. They're fun. They're very chill about it. If they win, amazing. If they lose, no big deal. However, they're going up against competitors that not only take this immensely seriously, they take it seriously year round. They're not in it just for the team's tournament. They're not in it only in one league. They're actively involved in Schmoedown year round, no matter what. And their mentality behind training pretty consistently is reflected in that. Perry, she's like very vocal about it. She's like, I love Schmoedown, but I if I don't study all that much. When I'm in it, I'll study like some movies, but it's not a massive priority for her. She's mentioned in numerous interviews, and same for Haley.
Any match that she's been in, she's been talking about in recent matches she has been in. She has talked about wanting to come back into the Schmoedown.
That doesn't mean that's not the same thing as studying year round.
The point is for that, what she was talking about when she was saying that stuff is she wants to take this a little bit more seriously. That's what Koi is doing for her. Koi is allowing her to study in the way that she wants to study.
Does that mean she's going to be studying on the same level as Roca that studies like 4 hours a day while preparing for a single match, or Dan Merle? Thing is, exactly, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter that they can't. Absolutely, like I said, the mentality is just different. If they study 2 hours a day, awesome, even better, great. But it's a very different type of competitor.
Like I said, that the Witching Power is going to beat the Founding Fathers.
That's
what's going to happen. It's like it's going to be a tough match between it, because I think that Perry is taking this a little bit more seriously than what she has taken it. I think
she's a casual competitor by comparison,
more seriously than what she has taken it into in the past, because I think that they're invested into this, and I think that they would appreciate to be able to go on. Do I think that they know that they're going against some really tough competitors? Absolutely. No one thinks that the Witching Power is going to beat the Founding Fathers. I feel like I can say that with full confidence, and for everyone in this group and in the chat can absolutely 100% say that no one believes that the Witching Power is going to beat the Founding Fathers in it. But to say that there's no team chemistry between these people who have worked together for years,
that's irrelevant. Alex, that's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant. There's a lot of people that work together actively and that are not good teams.
You're right, Alex. We've worked together for a year, and look at us now.
No, I mean, it's just the way it is. There's a lot of people that Video Drew and Tom, they didn't work together until they actually met for that actual match. I think it was like a day or two, and that worked out amazing. But there's also some people that have worked together for years, and it doesn't work out. It's just everyone's a little bit different. There's a lot of different types there's lots of different types of teams. So we can't say the same thing. Like I said, this is just a very different type of team. This is a really great team. They have a lot of potential. It's just that I think that it's just like a very different type of team altogether. They're not in the same conversation as a top tier team.
No,
do I think they're a bad team? No.
I don't feel like anyone has said that. The argument is team chemistry.
And they're fine. They're not great. They're fine. They're passing. They have a C+.
They don't have
in
They
chemistry.
have a solid C plus.
In chemistry or
They
as
do
an
not
overall
have a
team?
C
No,
chemistry.
I think as a solid C plus. Again, when it comes to team chemistry, it's more than just promos. It's more than that. It's more than just being like, "Hey, how you doing today?" In between, it's it's how you're able to troubleshoot in the middle of things. Okay, and being like how you're able to kind of refocus each other if needed, because that aspect is more important than most aspects of being a team together.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. Also, I'm going to say real quick about chemistry is you're talking about
They got
different
lucky
things.
though.
In terms of chemistry, chemistry is important to a degree. I
Yes.
will say, Alex, chemistry is very important to a degree in terms of, but when you're facing something like a founding fathers, it's not as important because you got to have that level first. Chemistry will be important if you're facing a team that's on the same level as you or in the same ballpark as you. I just don't think that Perry or Haley are in the same ballpark as Merle and Rook at this point. Could they be? Maybe at some point if they really tried.
I
But
mean,
Rook and Merle are
had enough opportunity to work together in the same capacity that
that's true. Very true.
have absolutely 100%. But to say that they don't have any chemistry at all is just.
I didn't say that though. Don't put whatever words in my mouth. Please don't. That's not the case. I just said that they have a lot of work to do as far as chemistry.
You stated C plus. You stated C plus chemistry. That's what you said.
Yes, it's passing. It's passing. I say that because it's a passing grade. Please let me talk. It is a passing grade. It is a passing grade when it comes to a team. It was their first match together. They've never played together as a team before. So that's what I expect. I expect to only improve from there. That's the way it is. I didn't expect them going into it being like, okay, that's a future champion team. That's not the case. What I want from them is honestly, like I mentioned, chemistry overall. And I want them to be able to hopefully troubleshoot situations. You know, if they're, like I said, okay, well, it's like, hey, when it comes to, it's like, oh, it's A and B. Okay, well, I know it's not this one. Okay, let's go with this one. All right. So they have that kind of self-reliance, and that takes time. I understand that. Compared to founding fathers, obviously they've played a lot together over the years, and that makes sense that they have a lot of great chemistry together. You know, they also have a very similar mentality when it comes to Schmoedown. And the Witching Power, they're obviously this is their new team. But also, these are two very different competitors. They're really great singles competitors, and I think they have nowhere to go but up as a team. But it's just, it doesn't compare. It's like apples to oranges.
I think, okay. I think it's an interesting, I think we've kind of talked this one out at this point. It's an interesting time. We definitely have a good match come up. I think it'll be a fun match either way. I do think the Founding Fathers will win. I think we all think that at this point. I think it could be a fun match, and they could make a good showing. I do think that Witching Power could make a good showing, and we'll have to see. But let's move it on now to the rest of the tournament. We have a couple matches that we're playing this week. The first match we got playing this week is Category 9 versus The Odd Couple, which some people actually consider that Category 9 should be a first play-in team as well, but they lucked out, I guess, in a way. But I guess in a way, it's really, I don't know if you're lucking out facing the former team champions. I don't know if that's that's really lucking out or not. Since I haven't talked in a while, I'll talk about my views on this match particularly. I think the Odd Couple are going to win this match. I think there's no doubt in my mind this is going to happen. But I'm very interested to see what we get out of Jader and Brandon Hanna. Jader has kind of made his name for himself as not a top tier player yet, but he's done very solidly. He has a potential of being of improving to be a top. He could potentially be a top tier player eventually, if depending on how he works. I think he's a good solid player. We just have no idea at all about Brandon Hanna. Not a clue at this point, because we've only seen Brandon Hanna in Intergeekdom. We've never seen him in the singles. We can only talk about what he knows, what he doesn't know. We're going to find out. But it's hard for me to think if he went into Intergeekdom and he's solid to win into Intergeekdom, if he had enough time to really try to study the regular side of the Schmoedown. So there's too many firsts in this match for me to give the Category 9 much hope. First time Brandon's playing in a single. First time Brandon's playing in a single. First time Jader is playing in team. Jader and Brandon are playing in teams, and I don't even know how well they know each other. I did hear that they've been working together since obviously they've tried to work together since they were announced, but is that enough when you got Snyder and Andreka, who are veterans in the league, long-term veterans in the league, long-term team veterans, and former champions? I don't know how we could see anything but an Odd Couple victory here.
I hopefully think so. I agree, on most of your points, unfortunately. We don't really know all that much about Brendan Hanna. Thing is, he has known that he was going to be in teams for a long time, for a very long time. And so, and I made that little, I made that little like idea. I put that like on Twitter. I feel like a whole bunch, I feel like forever and a day ago. But he's been training for this for a long time. Before he came onto IG, he was also training. He was training to be part of teams, honestly. So I'm honestly not surprised that he ended up going into teams. I am a little curious to see how he's going to be going teamed up with Jader, because, Brandon Hanna, he's a showboat. He's a show pony, it's all about him, it's what he's going to do for now. And I don't think that's going to really work well with someone like Jader, who is such a specific, very hyper-focused kind of competitor. So I don't know how that's going to really work out together, honestly. So, and versus going up against the odd couple that have played competitively together as a team and individually since like season 2, I think, whatever. Maybe season 1 even. Yeah, like and Draco was like from season 1, I think, or was it season 2? But
and Draco not there for that long. It's not. I'll have to find out. I'll look it up.
Well,
not that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Regardless, though, they've been competing actively in Schmoedown for a very, very long time, though.
Right, Snyder.
They're not babies.
Steiner was 2016 was his first match, and Draco was, I think, around the same time as that. I think, or maybe a little bit later on, actually, because he came around with Bibbs. Just curious, I want to put the facts out there as they are. And Draco was also late in 2016, so that's where they are. So they're both a little more recent than you think, but they do feel like they've been there forever. I'll give you that. They feel like they've been there for longer, but
yeah, you're right.
But yeah, no, you're not wrong about Hannah. Hannah's definitely the showboat thing. He likes. That's what I'm kind of interested to see their chemistry going forward. Jader hasn't had any kind of heelish attitude at all. He's been kind of, for being on a heel team, he's been kind of mostly he'd let like other people, his managers, do his heel work for him, so to speak. I'm interested to see, maybe that's what's going to happen too. Hannah will be doing the heel work for them, so to speak. He'll just concentrate on getting questions, and have to see how that goes.
Do you think it could be very similar to like when Who's the Boss came forward? Like Ben Bateman came, where he's like, he was like doing this heelish thing, and then Riley was like, oh man, I apologize for him. He's like trying to be a face on his behalf, I guess. So they could have a little bit of that dynamic. I mean, that I can see, honestly.
I can see that happen. I mean, it'd be fun anyway. Although I don't know if Jader will play that up as much. I can see that happening, but it won't be as good, I don't think. And no offense to either of them, but I think Ben and Mark had that just down, so perfectly.
I missed them already.
I would like to see them together again. But that's probably not going to happen as well. It's probably not going to happen. Although, never know. But yeah, that's the first match we got going on. That's going to be next Tuesday or Monday on Patreon, I believe.
And I think it was actually mentioned that the odd couple, if they don't win these next few matches, potentially they're going to retire. I mean, not retire, but they're going to, the odd couple's done.
Yeah, they put that out there. They have put that out there. And I always kind of say, well, I believe a lot of that when I see it. I mean,
exactly.
People talk about a lot of things. Roca has retired, wanted to retire several times, and Andrew Guy's retired a couple times. I feel like you say things like that when things are going not your way. Winning a couple matches obviously will make it go your way, and you won't be talking about it again. But sometimes you just need a break from things. Maybe that's what it'll be. They'll lose a couple, maybe they'll take a break and see what happens. It'll all depend on the draft score. That's the whole good thing about the draft this year, next year, et cetera, et cetera. Like, will Roxy keep them both, and will that happen, or will Roxy decide to split them up at that point? So I think Roxy's pretty solidly in their corner. But if they decide to split, maybe they'll tell Roxy that, and maybe that will change things up. It's going to be interesting to see how that works.
Yeah. Well, that's something I do think the Rockstars, because Jeff Snyder thrives working with Roxy. No one's going to dispute that. She is able to kind of work, not only just work with him efficiently, she will tell him exactly what he needs to hear. He's a certain personality. He doesn't mesh well. He can't be with Dagnino. You know,
Right.
I don't think he would do well with Kaiser. It's maybe, but it would be kind of iffy. So it would definitely be. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's gonna potentially play out. I think Andraco, however, it needs to either he needs to really do better, better be part of a team, or else he might need to, find a new manager, honestly, because I think, honestly, he can succeed without Roxy. I don't think Jeff can, though.
That's yeah. I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I don't. It's kind of fun. I'm in between. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think Jeff Snyder is helped by Roxy. I think he could survive without her. He survived without her for a couple of years. I mean, she definitely took it to the next level. It'll be interesting to see how he would react going, like having had her tutelage, whatever, and then going out in the world post her. I just think he could take that with her a little bit. And it depends on what kind of managers he does have. Maybe somebody else could. Maybe a Coy or a Winston might be able to do the similar type thing. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. But either way, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Danny, what do you have to think about that match, the upcoming one with the Category 9? Category 9 versus the Odd Couple. We kind of veered off into the future a little bit.
I think Odd Couple has it. Like you all said, I think it'll be very interesting to see the chemistry between Brendan, Hannah, and Jared Promo. I do think that they could possibly be on similar scales with knowledge when it comes to it. I don't know. I don't feel like I've seen them enough in I feel like I've really only seen Brendan Hannah in Inner Geekdom. That's just kind of where I feel like I've seen Brendan Hannah the most. So I don't feel like I know necessarily how he's going to do in a teams tournament. I've seen Jader and I know how he does in it, and I know his knowledge behind it, and I have confidence behind Jader. I also have a lot of confidence behind Brandon Hannah. So I think that they would do well as a team, but I just don't know where their similarities and differences will kind of run. You know what I mean? So that's the only thing about it. I just don't necessarily know where it is, but I think this is Odd Couple's game to win. And that I do agree that the play-in match should have been between Category 9 and the Witching Power. That should have been the play-in match. The only
I agree.
Hot take here. I just feel like it's giving Founding Fathers a road to the win for that because of where they are in the spectrum of the whole tournament of it. But I truly feel like Category 9 and Witching Power should have been the play-in match for it because those are the two teams that we've seen that are untested behind it. What other teams? I'm sorry. What other teams are in there that have not played as a team before?
Well, Misfits hadn't played as a team before, but they both had played on teams. So I guess that definitely makes it. I understand where you're coming from that because Zipper had played on team, and obviously Avid Wit has done only teams.
Deception and
Deception never been a team.
Are the only other teams on there who have not played as teams before. But Deception, of course, okay, you could also argue that Deception could have been a play-in match because these are both technically rookies for the Schmoedown as opposed to every other person inside of it. Every other person that has been in there has been playing in this league for a very, very long time.
I don't disagree.
A big argument that Deception could have been in the play-in match.
This is a case to me. That is a case to me where storyline and momentum kind of took over because Adam Collins was doing so well, and he's obviously been on fire throughout the whole thing. Where it's kind of like, well, this is a guy, he's already proved himself. You can't put him in a play-in match because we want to see him in the tournament. You can't at this point. But that sometimes happens. Like we do treat this as a sport. We've had this argument before. Sometimes things are ranked, but there is sometimes mitigating circumstances in terms of momentum, storyline that kind of sometimes tweak things a little bit. Is it fair? Is it legitimately completely fair? Probably not, but it's kind of the way the sport has to go as a sport entertainment package as it goes. So this is where you got to bend a little bit sometimes in a way. And I get where the argument would be that's not fair, but I also completely understand why they did it, why I do it this way. Yeah. This, at the end of the day, it's also about showmanship. It's a show. It's about ratings. This is what the people want.
Which is why fucking Ethan Irwin and Andrew Guy's team is not in a play-in match because
they're legends
that's the team that you want to see. Like this is obviously we're an Action Army podcast. Hello, all of that good stuff. So of course we want to see either Andrew Guy or Ben inside of this tournament. So if we get a chance to see Andrew Guy inside of this, that's exactly what we want to see behind it. So that's why I'm not arguing against this. But again, Ethan Irwin and Andrew Guy have been players inside of this inside of the league for a very, very long time. Where could you put a play-in match was the decision to put the Misfits versus the Witching Power for the play-in match the best decision. That was weird. Hello, Tequila. That could have been like an odd thing against it. I personally feel like it would have been a great play-in match to see the Witching Power against Deception, because Deception would have won that. And I think that would have given Deception also a leg up behind it, because that would have given them one extra match that they would have won over everyone else if they do go to the end of the tournament, and they do take it in a way that a lot of people are kind of predicting. It's so weird to see how many people are on the side of this team versus against literally all of the other teams who have played in tournaments before. So,
I get it though. I gotta be honest. After the horror free for all and after the singles tournament, I already kind of declared at one point that I can't pick against Adam Collins until he loses at least. At this point, I'm just not going to pick until he loses. At this point, that's hard. I get the concept, but you're not wrong.
Well, if you look at the chart, I mean, any of these, like, you don't want to put the established teams in those. You want the rookie teams to play in those, play in matches. Between Misfits, Witching Power, Deception, and Category 9. Thank you. It's like they're all interchangeable. So honestly, I am very surprised that some managers, I wonder if it would have been possible if some managers would have requested the play-in match potentially, because if you are in a lower ranking, tier such as Kaiser or Roxy, where they're really not doing great, obviously faction-wise, points-wise, hypothetically, if you win the team's tournament, amazing. But you would also have 3 wins in order to get you that tournament win instead of the regular 2 matches compared to a lot of the other teams. So you want that extra potential match to get more games. So I wonder if it might have be like, hey, please give me that extra match or not, it's, and maybe there was an ultimatum where it's like, hey, I'm only allowing rookies playing in them or not, who knows?
So I want to ask the two of y'all, how do you feel about the teams that were picked for the play-in match for those specific point reasons? Like when we think of the Witching Power for the Quirky Mercs going in versus, they can't put Shazam in because Shazam is the team champion.
Yeah, the team champion. Yeah.
So okay, then let's go to Corruption for the example. So putting in Marisol McKay and Adam Collins ahead of your the whole reason why you started this team is, as a manager going into this tournament, deciding what teams you're going to put into this tournament. Do you all feel like the managers made the best decision for these teams' tournament?
So that's definitely a complicated question, just because there are different managers definitely manage different different ways.
Right.
But some competitors requested almost specifically, I only want to play in teams. I only want to play in singles, or I only want to play in IG, or both. Maybe you're a multifaceted competitor, such as Brandon Hanna or Adam Collis, amazingly, where you are able to be in multiple leagues. But some competitors, maybe it's down to availability. Maybe it's just they don't like being on certain leagues. They would request to be in one league. And so I think it's with Deception in particular, that was a direct they were a backup plan. Essentially, they were the backup plan to corruption. If corruption were to win, essentially. And so, that was like, it was them or the Claudia, what's her face? Claudia Dolph and Mark Hoyk. Mark Hoyk and Claudia Dolph. That was another suggested team combo. The Black Swans.
That's cool.
What a great team that would have been. So I mean, it's either way though. I do think that after around the time where Shannon was starting to come to the decision where she would have to pick a team, at that time they were filming Adams's matches, and she's like, oh crap, I got to put this guy and make as much use of him as possible because it is game time. We're wrapping this up. We only have a few matches left and I want first place.
Right.
So
you ride the hot streak because she's doing what we're doing, riding the hot streak in a way. And I get that. And I totally get that to a degree. I will also say that I think if I'm wrong, I could be wrong. I'm just a little sad that she couldn't use corruption because corruption was in the team.
Exactly.
She couldn't use corruption itself. So I think as she made a good team up decision there. The interesting one to me always was the going back to the Quirky Mercs one was because I know they couldn't use Shazam, but they did have the Real Rejects as a more I'd say an unstable team. More they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And maybe it might be a schedule thing. I don't know.
Haley requested that she only play in teams because she didn't want to play in singles. Apparently, he asked her if she wanted to play in the singles tournament, and she turned it down. But she said she still wanted to play, and so the teams tournament, like I mentioned, is the only one she was able to participate in.
Okay, all right. So maybe that's what it is. But even so, though, even like if you decide that, I mean, if you could only, I mean, I guess that's why if you draft or not draft or you sign her or whatever, you got to use her. But do you have to use her? Or do you go with a stronger team regardless? So I mean, I think the Real Rejects could have done. I mean, they won the match. I can't really.
I just feel like that's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that we're not necessarily like privy to in a sort of way. I feel like that doesn't necessarily make sense. Like I know that we all know and understand certain things in a certain way, but like when it comes to deciding between the witching power and the Real Rejects,
Real Rejects.
R's and W's are hard for me. For any that's just a note. I would just like to say that R's and W's are hard for me to say with my lips and my mouth and all of that. So, anyways, the Real Rejects and the witching power that took a lot of.
You did it. You did it well. You got it.
Thank you. I think choosing between those teams was a big decision, but I think I don't ever really me personally, like how I want to look at like stuff that happens, I don't want to actually be like, well, the Real Rejects have this schedule on their live chat and this is what they do on their Patreon and this is their actual schedule. Like I don't ever like to look at like real life stuff when it comes like that. I try to look at it as like I still try to keep it inside of the Schmoedown bubble.
I get that. I mean, we know there's definitely real life events that there's definitely real life things that happen behind the scenes that definitely affect the scheduling. Christian wanting to see Brandon Hanna more potentially, and that's not a spoiler. That's a guess that Brandon Hanna was so hot that maybe Christian dictated that he wanted Brandon Hanna as a team member. Who knows? But there's a lot of things like that do obviously affect these decision making. So I get what Danny's saying though, in terms of like we should take that out of the mix is what you're trying to say as far as like if we're looking at it like but we should definitely, if we're going to do that, as long as we make that disclaimer. The disclaimer being obviously there's scheduling issues, obviously there's other stuff that behind the scenes we might not know about or we might know about or that might be public knowledge per se as far as that goes. But purely on the decision, if we had to make that decision without anything else behind that, we don't know anything about Haley's decisions, we don't know anything about what Christian wants, we don't know anything. what would you put in Witching Power or Real Rejects? I guess it's an interesting topic to have also. Because
I'm sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
With that, like if that's the basis that we're going on behind it, if I'm looking at those two teams and what they've done and what they could potentially do, honestly, I'm going with Witching Power. I get it that Real Rejects have been in this game for as long as they have been. Their record isn't necessarily where it should be. I get it. I love that team more than people should. Genuinely, I love that team. I think that they really do well. I think John Humphreys is definitely a player inside of this league that is underrated, but in the same sense that I feel that Haley Fouch is. So that's why I feel like if I'm looking at potentially from a manager's aspect and looking at my team, who has played and what's going on and what I feel like could potentially be something that could have a bigger run into it. If I'm looking at the Real Rejects or the Witching Power versus Founding Fathers, I think the Witching Power has a higher chance at winning than the Real Rejects do. I absolutely. If I'm looking at the Real Rejects versus Founding Fathers, no offense to my dudes, no offense to my favorite reaction channel, no offense, guys, but I would genuinely go. I would like if I had to put money on something. If I felt like between these two teams, who would beat that one team? I'm gonna go with the Witching Power. Regardless of how I feel of how Real Rejects have done in the past, I feel like Perry Nemiroff and Haley Fouch as movie watchers and what they do inside of the sphere and taking it outside of that little dome that I was talking about, I think that team has the potential to beat the Founding Fathers.
Interesting. I would argue also real quick that I do think I get what you're saying. To me, the Real Rejects though have made such great strides. Like in the beginning, like when they started, they were definitely more of like I don't want to say laughing stock, but I mean like they were the if you're in wrestling, they'd be the jobbers. They're the ones who are going to come in. You're going to put them in a first round match. You're going to put them against somebody who you want to test them out if they can get past them. Makuga said it on show that Josh, they were the kind of, if you beat us, then you can play the rest of the league kind of thing. Like that stepping stone team. That's where they were for a little bit. But they've really taken a lot of great steps this year for them. Even though their wins and losses aren't extremely different, they made an impression on me, both Humphreys and Alba, and together I think I don't want to stunt their growth away. I almost want to keep that momentum going, because if they're going to take that extra step, they need to play together more. They need to play more matches, and that would bring them up farther. So in a way, I would put them in as a team that's been having some momentum versus a team that hasn't done anything together. I mean, you could argue Perry had momentum after knocking out KO in the singles tournament, but to me, I don't think it's quite where you want to be in this kind of situation for a tournament where you need points. You need points. We're running out of time. We're running out of clock. So you go with the guy who has already made that stretch. They've already had that momentum, and kind of like riding the hot hand in a way. Not that the Real Rejects was a hot team, but they had certainly made strides, and I would like to have seen them go get a shot at it.
I definitely agree with you. They just have so much momentum going into this, this season. And I also think that I agree with you, Danielle, 100,000,000%. They're also like low key, one of my favorite Schmoedown teams of all time. They're so wonderful individually and together. John Humphreys in particular, there's so much untapped potential with that competitor. I'm like waiting for him to like blow up. I really am. For honestly, I would personally, please don't take that out of context, guys. But please don't.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I think I prefer, because I know I kind of bring about the conversation about chemistry and everything, and we're not talking about, we're not going to talk about, schedules or just availability and who wants to play in what division or any of that good stuff. When it comes down to it, I have more confidence in the Real Rejects as a team because I know what to expect from them and I know how to work with them, what they need in matches. And with when it comes to the Witching Power, I don't know what to expect all that much. They're much more of a risky team because you just don't know. They're really great together. We haven't seen them individually, but we haven't seen them together. And so, you just don't know what they're going to need as a manager going into it versus real rejects. You know exactly what they're going to need. You know what they need from you as a manager, and you know how to prepare them efficiently. You already got the strategy for your strengths, your weaknesses. You've got all that good stuff. You know how to, you know what to what to do to help them refocus or whatever it may be. So it's just very different. It just comes down to it. If I was like in first or second place with my faction and I didn't need the points as actively, I would be like, yeah, totally, witching power, 100%. I want to work on, building some new competitors. Absolutely. And who knows, this might be like the best new team of the season. That happens. You never know. Same with like deception. But if I'm in like a situation where I'm in desperate need of points, I'm going to put in a team that I can rely on a little bit more by comparison.
I do want to say something really quickly about what I see like talking about in the chat right now when it's talking about going live versus in studio matches. And I get how that can feel different to people who are watching it online. And honestly, like this is completely a different sort of feeling. And I can only say my relations to it and how I feel about like being a personality on the internet in even the tiniest spectrum that it is. Y'all, like I have the biggest anxiety before we go live over every chill episode. Like Paul and I, like Paul's laughing right now because he knows. Like
I do. Oh yeah, I do.
Having a panic attack every single time before we go live for chill, because it's this weird sort of I'm not ready feeling. It's a sort of thing. So regardless if you feel like being at home, this is my home. I'm in my bedroom right now. My bed is I don't know how many, maybe 4 feet, 3 feet away from me right now.
You're not socially distancing from your bed?
I'm not even socially distancing from my bed right now, but I'm still extremely nervous every time I'm about to go live on the internet because there's still people watching me on a sort of thing. So going live versus recording something is still a weird sort of feeling because you're still presenting yourself to people on the internet. Okay. And you're still in this weird sort it is really like this weird sort of space that it is. So that's why whenever people talk about these new competitors that are doing stuff from their homes, competing online from their homes versus doing stuff in studio, I completely get how the atmosphere is different, but that doesn't change internally how you feel about things. Right. Me as a person, I'm just a nervous person. That's just who I am. I talk a lot whenever I get nervous. I that's just what I do. Danny rants is a thing because I'm just trying to make myself sound smarter in any sort of way that I can by just talking as much as I can. So that's where Danny rants kind of come from. But the idea that like playing online versus playing in studio does less for a person's anxiety or how versus someone plays, I think it's kind of a hollow argument because you still get the pressure. The pressure is there in a different sort of way, I think. I don't ever want to say that anyone who is playing online in this format is a different sort of way. I can say this because I've had the wonderful opportunity to be able to be there during a match online, pre-recorded before it goes online. That shit just goes. Like there's no real time that you get to yourself to recollect your brain or anything like that in any sort of sense. So that pressure is still there for the competitors, no matter what. So that's why I don't feel like playing online versus playing in studio is that much different, because I still believe that that pressure for the competitor is still there. And that's just my opinion. However anyone feels about it watching it online, all of that stuff is however anyone feels about it as a fan. I will never, ever discredit your experience as a fan. Never, ever. Absolutely not. But what I can tell you from my experience is that, like, I genuinely feel like the pressure is still there. I don't know how Paul or Alex feels about it, but for me personally, I feel like that pressure is still there.
I'm about to tell you how I feel about that.
Thank you.
But I also
Please stop making me talk. Thank you.
Streamlabs or Super Chats, obviously streamlabs.com/call-to-action-podcast. That will be a way to get in touch with us, get those in there. We'll answer anything you want to answer, of course, about the matches, about anything. I'll answer anything you want to know about me, honestly. I'm an open book. But as far as what we were talking about, Danny, I see what you're saying, because obviously I have the same kind of like, I don't know, panic attack. I get a little anxious before show starts when we're talking to the guests. It's like, oh, it's go time. I get those butterflies. Absolutely. I do think it's a little different, though, as far as in a live event. I think if you take that energy and then you multiply it, for me, you multiply it, because now you're stepping out on stage in front of everybody. Now you're under all the hot lights. Now you got Christian like bellowing at you from next to you. Whereas part Christian right here is talking to you on the screen. Even if he's loud, he's still just Christian. When you're in person, he's there like bellowing out all things, and the fans are chanting it with you. It's a kind of it's a bit of more of a distinct pressure that adds to it. So that's my own thoughts on it. I think there is definitely, it's not easy to do it online. I'm not saying it's definitely easy. I do feel more of the pressure in person, especially because it can be intimidated in person as well. I know Andrew Guy has mentioned it, for example. You talk to somebody online, you try to do your heelish tactics. It's one thing. When you're in your face in real life, in person, you can almost like lean into them. That's a little more intimidating, a little more distracting, if you will. So that's my thoughts on it. All right, Alex, do you have anything to add on that?
I threw up last night from crying, so, that's fine. That's fine. That happens to me at least once a month from anxiety. That's just the way it is. That happens, to a lot of us. Everyone's different. Everyone handles their stress very differently. And like I said, I've had no Wi-Fi. It's been wonky. My hotspot on my phone is very limited. And, I've been living I'm like, I don't want to say low-key homeless, but I mean, like, I've been living in Airbnbs for the past 2 weeks while I'm in the process of trying to move to a different place. It sucks. Thankfully, I'm very in a fortunate situation where my husband is incredibly supportive, and I love him so much. And, he knows exactly what to say and what to do in order to kind of comfort me, make me feel, like $1 million where I can put on a really, a good show when I need to, but, things happen, and, people are mean sometimes unnecessarily. Oh, surprise, right? And things happen. But at the end of the day, we try really hard to put out good content. And sometimes we just feel a lot of pressure to do our best work. And let's face it, the people that put most pressure, the people that puts most pressure on us to succeed, be a good host, be on top of booking and, putting everything out on the socials and everything. It's ourselves, right. Paul, you are your own greatest critic. You're your own biggest and worst critic. Same for Danielle and I, Kelsey, everyone I know. It's just because we know all our faults. Thing is, but that's okay. It's all about having a good support system and finding ways to,
I think
mellow
Jake
out.
I think Jake might be my biggest critic. I don't know about that. Maybe Jake is my biggest critic, but your point otherwise stands.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. Jake, I love Jake. I can say that as his sister, Jake can suck a bag of dicks, but I say that with love.
Maybe there's a camera on.
Okay, God damn it.
But
I love you, Jake.
But that happens.
Fair enough.
Bag of dicks.
Fuck you too, Alex.
I want you to carry around a purse like a big old flour bag. What? Just fill it with baguette-sized dicks.
Oh, here we go.
Eat it, Jake. Eat it. But okay,
baguette-sized dicks, though.
You heard me. Yeah, guys, this is living low key.
Welcome to the Action House.
Become this is the Action House, the Action Anxiety House. So there's also something I do want to confirm, that there's having anxiety, being stressed or being nervous, everything that we all feel, especially Danielle, you have 1,000,001 things going on. It's totally normal. It is totally fine to feel that way. It is, I don't want to say it's expected, but it's, it's a very
one things is
yeah, it's a lot going on, and it's okay to feel that way. It's, if anything, it's a great thing that you're able to recognize those feelings rather than push it off and ignore it, because that always ends well, for anyone, right?
Are we turning this to action therapy right now?
This is
action anxiety house.
Hello. Do you want to learn how to deal with your anxiety and your social repressions? Come and talk to us.
You want to talk about grade school and high school bullying? Just kidding. We don't want to go there. That's another day. But going back to Schmoedown, I do think you are totally, I do think you're totally right, Danielle. Some competitors, not only actively prefer, whether it be in studio or, in a virtual setting, it can have like a real effect on their mindset going into matches. Mm-hmm. Roka and Guy have been very vocal about it. Guy doesn't want to be in a match unless it's a team next season. It sucks. And Roka, he hasn't won a single match all season in a virtual setting. And he's mentioned, it's just really hard for him, being the kind of competitor he is, to rely exclusively on this kind of skill set. And because a lot of his strengths require physicality. That's the kind of performer he is. That's what he feeds off of. And so, it's a very difficult time for not only a lot of behind the scenes people like us, obviously, but these competitors. There's a lot that goes into it.
That's such a good thing to say, Alex, because the idea, and again, I said it in the chat, no tea, no shade to anyone who feels anything different for in studio versus online matches. But seriously, it's a weird feeling having your presence online. So imagine the pressure for people like John Roka, who are high caliber players, reading these comments that say, you're at home, what pressure do you have behind it? You're doing it in your own house. Well, how can you fail? You're in a comfortable environment. How much more pressure do you think that it actually puts on players in that sort of sense? Because it's not easy to do things online. I'm sorry, regardless of how we feel, Paul knows, Alex knows, we have to be this weird online presence for this show, and we don't have any really expectations that other people have for us. You just come here for our opinions. You don't come here for our specific knowledge or anything like that. When you're watching Schmoedown, you're here for Danielle's wicked awesome hair. Thank you. It's a mess right now, but thank you. It's more gorgeous than my hair could ever be. She's trying to kiss my butt, and I appreciate it because I'm a kisser. I'm just stating a fact because I have a mop on my head. So
that's totally
I look like a shepherd dog with blue eyeshadow. My hair.
The most beautiful person on this channel. Why is she doing this right now?
I do want to clarify. I didn't say that I wasn't
now
beautiful.
They're fighting over how
I didn't say that I wasn't attractive or I wasn't beautiful. I'm stunning, okay? I'm stunning, okay? Have you seen me? See me. Thing is, what I do have, however, is a mop of hair. Because I can't do. I can't. This is called a hair. Actually,
you interrupted my train of thought. It's fine. Alex,
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to stop. I'm not going to tell you to stop. So I'll let you keep going with yours.
Where the hell were we? We're getting off track.
I don't know.
We're off the rails. All right. You know what? Let's just move on to the next match. We have one more match to talk about that's coming up this week on Friday. It is Paul and Tom versus the final exam. So Paul against Paul in a way. This is going to be this is probably the best match that we're going to see this week, I think, in terms of the tournaments matches versus the play-in matches versus Category 9 and Odd Couple. This match is one I'm definitely looking forward to because they're both established teams for the most part, at least with established players. I like the chances of both teams. I have a hard time picking between these two teams, to be honest with you. Obviously, Final Exam has a former champion on their side with Paul Ayama. They made a good run this year as a team, nearly making it all the way until Shazam stopped them. Paul and Tom struggled a little bit, but I feel like they're angry. At least Paul specifically has been angry. He really wants to show himself more. So I don't know who's got the edge here. I want to give it to Final Exam because they've worked together so pretty well. But I also think out of the four people involved, Lon is probably the least of the four players at this point. He's shown a little weaknesses compared to the others. I think Paul and Tom have a lot of strengths.
I don't know.
Okay, I think that they have great guys. I think Lon's probably the best character of the four. But he's shown a little vulnerability, especially since we've been able to hear the matches. Like before, we didn't get to know. I know, like Andrew Guy, for example, has said he hates talking step. We see this now. We get to see the talk in between. It always seems like Lon was kind of giving in to Paul, going, "Oh yeah, okay, Paul, you think that? We'll do that." So I think this team basically will live on die on Paul Ayama, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because he's a great player. But I do think Paul Preston and Tom are more equal players, and therefore less weaknesses between them, which is why I think I want to lean towards Tom and Paul, whatever the name is. Paul and Tom. It's Tom and Paul. Tom and Paul. That either way. So I think I'm going to lean towards Tom and Paul. What do you guys think?
I'm the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, I got Final Exam on this. For team chemistry reasons, I think that Paul and Lon have worked together so well, got very far in the teams earlier in the team. It wasn't the real teams tournament thing, but like in the tournament, in the teams matches that they've been in, they did very well together. They've always done very well together. They've complemented each other in their matches. When you say that Lon is probably like 4th ranked out of the players that are in this team, yes, I can kind of see how that goes. But also, I don't want to discredit this team. Could possibly be my bias. You all know me. Swag, drip, holla, holla. So I'm 100% rooting for Final Exam inside of this match. I think I can't. It legit can't. I can't. It wouldn't feel right in any sort of way for me to go against Swag. So that's why I definitely have Final Exam in this. But really, honestly, it really does come down to team chemistry when it comes to this sort of match, because Tom and Paul definitely have that je ne sais quoi about them. Like, we know that Paul Preston and Tom as individual competitors have done extremely well together. But from these online matches and what I've seen Tom play in has been off for me. I love Tom as a character. I think his character is a lot of fun, but what I've seen him in these online matches, I'm just not that big of a fan of. Like, I love his character. I just don't think his character translates very well inside of these online matches. And I think that there's nothing against Tom, the person, as a play, because I think he has the legit knowledge when it comes behind it. But I think that that's where character play kind of comes in, where we saw the Andrew Guy match in that big what was it when he played against, who was it? Oh my gosh, why can't I think of what it was? But like the Andrew Guy spectacle that we had to deal with when he was going through his beautiful mind sort of thing as a player and stuff like that, like going through the Schmoedown and all of that. I feel like sometimes maybe in these online formats, your character isn't going to translate very well. And that's where I feel like Tom fails. And that's the only reason also why, that's not the only reason, but that's why I feel like Final Exam will advance.
Okay. I mean, it's a valid point. Like I said before, both sides. If Final Exam advanced, I wouldn't be shocked. Let's put it that way. I'm definitely not saying, like, not the other matches I've said definitively, Final is going to win, definitively Odd Couple are going to win. This one could go either way. I'll be honest with you. I just lean one way. But Alice, what do you have to say?
I agree with everything Danielle is saying. Everything from the time, comments, down to the stats and everything. I mean, like we were talking about, when I was like, if I were Coy, I would have personally gone with the real rejects, but that's totally fine. That's just me. But when it comes to Kate and, being part of the den, obviously, thing is, I don't feel like they really connected, from their first match. Their lack of connection felt very real. Like it was awkward and not in a good way, and so I honestly, if I had put money on, I would 100% put down, for Final Exam. And not to mention, they not only have really great connection, but they are like a really solid team together. They actively work well together. And I hope to see much, much more of them next season as well.
So like I said earlier, we are privileged to this sort of weird dome and stuff like that. So with all of that considered, do you feel like what's Rachel Silvestrini and Ben Goddard's team named the Den, right?
The Pride.
The Pride.
Do you feel like the Pride against Final Exam would be a better competition, or do you feel like Tom and Paul are a better competition against Final Exam?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Not rookies. One rookie in the Pride with Ben Goddard, Rachel Silvestrini, who does very well in teams and all of that good stuff. Two very different teams, I think, when it comes to the Pride versus Tom and Paul. Two very different teams, in my opinion. I personally do think that the team, fucking Tom and Paul would do better than the Pride when it comes to this specific match. That's my opinion against it. I do agree that Tom and Paul are the better team to put into the teams tournament, regardless if the Pride has had a little bit more chemistry, but they've done very well together versus Tom and Paul, all of that good stuff. But I do feel like Tom and Paul is the better choice for this.
I would like to see, I think, what they need with Paul and Tom. They played one match and they lost, and they didn't lose bad. They made a bad decision with Kate Kate taking the sword about the Festival of Darlings, whatever. Obviously, it's a rookie, but that was also when Kate was I think it was like her first match, I think.
It really was. And something you have to remember is that with that being said, we can't really hold that mistake against her. Right. Those things happen. It was her first match as a manager. People make mistakes, and that's not something. Thing is, what if anything, I'm more impressed that she learned from it. She was very open about had that experience of why she chose it, and it makes sense why she chose it. But those things happen, and she said if anything, it made her much more proactive as a manager in the future. So that's a really, really wonderful way to kind of go about it.
I agree. I do think that they need more time together, though. Like they have chemistry. The Pride has chemistry because they played a lot together now. They played a bunch of matches together now. Paul and Tom need that in order to get the chemistry. Is it too soon though to have it in the tournament? I get that too. But I
would be much more excited about Paul and Tom together as a team if I had if I was their manager and I saw them training, if I knew if we had our official den training sessions or something like that, if I noticed they do naturally have a lot of chemistry together,
right?
And I believe it was revealed later on that Paul and Tom, even though they had a really bad chemistry on that one match, it was their first match, and also apparently they met each other that day. So we can't really expect amazing things from the get-go from people that just met.
Right.
And so if I were Kate, I would be much more motivated if I actually saw them behind the scenes and they actually hung out, or not hung out obviously, but I mean if they actually did, if I did notice a connection between them that wasn't there before.
Yeah, well, that's sort of also my not question, but just general statement for all of us here, especially because all of us have been following the Schmoedown for a very long time. This is Kate's first run as a manager. We have seen the progressions of a team having a manager when managers were completely non-existent in the league to where managers were kind of there. They were a personality. We've seen what they've done and to what this season has brought managers up to. This is Kate's first year in the Schmoedown, really. So it's interesting to see what she's doing with it because I love Grace. I absolutely love I will follow Grace to the ends of the earth 100%. That's not a weird lie, anything. I follow her, but I love Grace Hancock as a person.
Oh
no
my gosh.
Deny that.
So,
but when it comes to the Schmoedown, I don't necessarily think that like the strategies and the complete gameplays and anything that like really involves people in the Schmoedown in the same sense that like Roxy is in it or like even Tom Dagnino is into it and stuff like that. I don't think Kate has all of that back knowledge of what happened years prior to understand the game in a sort of sense that a lot of us kind of understand it in a weird sort of way. That's such a weird thing to say that we understand a game on the internet. Anyways, so I think Kate can progress as a manager from here, from what she's doing now. I think she's doing a lot of rookie mistakes in a way that would allow her to be a better manager in the next year. And that's what I feel like is an important thing to note about the Schmoedown is because this is a game that we all want to see continue. None of us are just like, all right, this is going to be the season of the Schmoedown, and then I'm going to forget about it after the season. All of us are looking into this, like what's going to happen next season, especially right now at this point in the Schmoedown, because all of us are as invested into this game as we can be, especially if you all are watching this now. If you all are here at 1:22 in the morning Central Time watching Call to Action, 2:22 for Eastern Time, right over there, wherever time there you are. If you're watching this show right now, you're invested in the Schmoedown in a certain kind of way. So for us to see what Kate is doing, I think that like we all know that Kate will be better as a manager next year. I don't think she's doing things to do as a manager this year, but only because she's new in this game. I think she's going to be a much better manager next year. And I think that that's what is important, especially when we talk about corruption as a team and deception as a team, because managers only have 3 spots to fill in this draft. So what is this game going to evolve into? It's just going to be like a faction that like has an established team like most NBA teams. Like I just think of the Spurs whenever I think of stuff like that. And like fucking all like the team in general, and like that team needs to stay together, and that's what factions are at this point. So I hope that factions stay, and I hope that we get I hope that we're able to keep teams together. And I think that Kate with the team that she has now, if she's allowed to continue to work with them, I think Kate will evolve as a manager, and her players that are on her faction now will evolve as players with her in the way that needs to evolve inside of the Schmoedown. That's my rant. Hello, I'm done.
All right. Well, we kind of went through that. We kind of have our thoughts on that. I think that's definitely, we could say that's going to be a very interesting match. I'm very much looking forward to that. We do have one event left we can talk about before we wrap things up here. We do have the Throwdown is next week as well on Friday. We got Josh McCouga versus Elliot Dewberry in the Civil War, in the Wildberry Civil War, and Jen Kemp versus Video Drew. Real quick, we'll do a little rundown on those real quick. Video Drew versus Jen Kemp's going to be a very interesting match, fun match. I think Drew has done a lot of work this year, but she hasn't had a chance to get much results out of it in terms of like the free-for-alls or anything else. So I think she's hungry, wants to put a solid, get a victory to move forward in a way, get that momentum going. So my prediction is Video Drew. Jen Kemp is a solid competitor from what I've seen. I haven't seen a whole lot though. So, but where do you see this going, Alex?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun day. Now, especially with with the spectacular, I can't believe it, just a few weeks away. Like, what is time? I have no idea where this has gone. We're like finally wrapping up the 2020 season, the crazy 2020 season of Schmoedown. And, you know, this is, whereas that's going to be filled with like belt matches, really intense matches that I can't wait to see. This is going to be one that's like this throwdown is going to be very specific to a lot of character, a lot of fun, you know, some story. So I'm really excited to see that, you know, go down. I am not particularly rooting for any one specific person. I do think Elliot has it in the bag, just because there's a reason why, you know, he's the Dewberry, and so he has that going for Makuga. He's great, but if it's not Will Smith or rom-coms, you know, it's very hit and miss for him, you know. And Video Drew and Jen Kemp are two competitors that are so talented where their knowledge is not reflected in their records. So I can't wait to see this go down.
Sweet. Real quick, Danny, before I get to you, we do have a super chat I want to throw up there. Mukbang reviews. Thank you very much for the donation. I missed most of the show, but I love the Schmoedown. I think Alex Mack is an amazing host. I respect PLD's 17 rounds, but he's a jerk overall.
Truth.
Maybe truth. Alex, your debate show with John Drew was great. Yeah, Schmoebates was awesome. You could go back and check that out afterwards if you'd like. It's a lot of fun. So, Danny, what about you in this throwdown?
I'm excited about this. I think Dewberry has it over Makuga. I think he just has a more established knowledge than Josh does. I think Josh is having fun. The idea of retirement between these two is kind of weird, because what if Josh does win? That's a high probability, like right there. Like Josh Makuga winning and beating someone is not anything that any of us as Schmoedown fans take for granted, because that can absolutely happen. So I think that it's just interesting to see what it is. I'm interested to see what they do for it. I love the Schmoedown. I have a lot of fun with the Schmoedown. I think it's it is my favorite show on the internet, 100%. So if this is just kind of a weird ploy to get Elliot and Makuga to retire, like if there's some sort of like weird at the end of the Schmoedown, both of them retire, or retire the wild berries in some sort of way, then I think that's fine. It's okay. The Wild Berries was a fun team. We definitely had a fun run. I'm not the biggest fan of people. What's the right way? I can't think of the right way to put this, but like the idea of keeping the Wild Berries together just because they're a fun team isn't necessarily my main reason for keeping them together. I do appreciate them, but if Josh Makuga or Elliot Dewberry decides to do something different or decides to move on from this specific journey inside of the Schmoedown, then more power to them. Go for it. Do it. Like we've seen, like we watched, like the only example that's coming to my head right now is Paul Preston and Adam Witt, like watching their team break up and see Adam Witt go into something separate is a fun idea. And so watching a team break up is fine. I think it's fine. We all have to deal with team action. Like if we have to deal with team action breaking up, y'all can deal with the Wild Berries breaking up. It's totally fine.
Ding ding, I get that. I will say that as well. I will give my quick thoughts here. I think about the headlining match. I think Makuga and Dewberry is going to be a fun match, and that's what we need sometimes. We just need a good fun match. Dewberry definitely has the advantage, but again, I think Makuga could also pull an upset, because Dewberry gets a lot of credit. Now he's starting to get more credit. It's almost like I wonder if it gets too far credit-wise. He's still a Wild Berry. I think it all depends on the rally. It's going to depend on that wheel. It's going to depend on if, again, like Alex said, Will Smith, or he'll get a rom-com, or he'll get a Sly and Arnie, which I think he does pretty good at. If you get something like that, it could work for him. Who knows? Either way, I don't think we're going to see the last of him. Makuga is 1-0 in retirement matches. That is true. He did win. He beat Finn Draco to stay unretired. And then there's also the possibility that something like this wrestling-wise can happen. I love to see this. I think Eric Frederick said it. I love it. He said, maybe whoever loses will come back as a masked competitor. When Hulk Hogan retired, he was forced to retire. He came back as Mr. America. Everyone knew it was him, but it was a fun segment. He comes back saying, he'll come back saying something like, well, Barry, he'll say something silly. And like, it'd be a fun time anyway.
No, yeah, absolutely. These, I think, I don't know about Elliot, but Josh has kind of mentioned that, he's not so much done with Schmoedown. It's just that Schmoedown is in a very different place from, where it used to be. And he's, in order to succeed, in Schmoedown nowadays, you have to be a certain kind of competitor that he isn't, and I would love to see him involved in another way, as an advisor, heck, as a ridiculous commissioner. I would love that. I think that would be so much fun, where he has a lot less pressure. But I just don't think realistically at this time this is not something that he wants to try to take seriously all that much.
And he won't. He can always come back.
It's just not a priority,
There's always there's always going to be a place for him in the league, honestly, because he's a fun person. He's a legacy player. So he'll always be able to come back and throw on an opening match or something like that, or because you're always going to put him on, you'll watch him no matter how quality the match is. So that's what I got to say. Real quick, another one for Mukbang Reviews again. Thank you so much. Alex Mack is a superstar on screen with question writing / interviewing. Lucas and the Outlaw are lucky men. PLD wins matches, but personality matters here, man. Work on it. Okay, I guess I see where I stand with you, and that's okay.
Yeah, okay Mukbang Reviews obviously does not like me, and that's fine.
That's okay. That's all right. We're good. I don't think he likes me much either, it seems like, but that's okay.
But at least he's acknowledging you. None of you come up at all.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for coming on with me. Thank you, chat, for being in there. Get that like, get that subscribe. Go to any podcast form or an audio format, anywhere you get your podcasts. Got a lot of things coming up. Tomorrow, Danny and I will be back. Chill to Action will be welcoming on Ben Goddard. That should be a lot of fun. Also, next week, I think Call to Action might be taking a little bit of time off because we have the big event next week that we're all going to be a part of, the Smash-a-thon, which I believe we have the thing in there. We go. Smash-a-thon, November 14th to the 15th, starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We are going 24, I think it might be over 24 hours now, if I've been talking to Sean correctly. A lot of different podcasts. Going to be Call to Action, POV, Let's Get Ready, Ultimate Schmoedown, this Mount Schmoedown. A lot of your favorite people from all these things, different competitors are going to be sprinkled throughout. Schmoebait, we're going to have a special Schmoebaits, which Alex is working hard on. We're going to have an episode of Chilled Action during the stream as well. A lot of different cool event things. It's all going to go towards that GoFundMe for Kevin the Smasher Smets. It should be a lot of fun. Do it. It's for a great cause. You'll see a lot of people. We'll let you know exactly where it is going to be. It's going to be on its own YouTube page, which we'll get out as soon as we have it all set up. We're working on that now. So anyway, Alex, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @real_AlexMack. You can also find me at a few different places, not only at C2A where I host Schmoebaits, every single Wednesday, but next week I'm going to be hosting a little bit of a weird one. It's going to be a fun one. Just saying, the Cinefanatics are wonderful in every single way. Very underrated. They're amazing. Go check them out. Just saying, putting it out there. I co-host the show called Cinema Bias with Video Drew, aka Drew Grant, where we dive into our personal movie biases and watch movies that challenge us, that we've never really thought about watching before. So we're checking that out. We diving into Children of Men, which I had never seen before, which was a patron pick directed by Alfonso Cuarón. And Fridays with John Roca, mornings with the Outlaw. That's it.
And Danny, hit us.
You know me, you can find me on Twitter at DannyJoy, DANNIEJOY. You can also find me here every Sunday hosting Chill to Action with my favorite co-host, Mr. Paul Denuzio, right over there, where we talk to Schmoedown pros, all of that good, great stuff. And that's pretty much it. So like this video, comment. If you're watching this on the replay, please comment and let us know how you feel. Let us know about your predictions for the team tournament match. Make sure that you subscribe to the Call to Action channel and all of that good, great stuff. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
At Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. You can find me also the Action Industries channel, producing for Ben and Drew. We have Action Guys tomorrow night before Chill. If you want to see us there, I'll probably pop up making an appearance. I usually make some kind of appearance at some point. And you can also find me on coming up next on the SEN network with Brad Gilmore and Jen Sturger. It's a lot of fun. And finally, PLD Projects. Probably tomorrow morning, early 7 a.m. we will Jarvie and I will be doing another Mandalorian review, season 2, episode 2. That's a lot of fun if you can be up at that time. If not, it'll be on replay. One last thing I'll say, there we go, mukbang reviews. One more time. Danielle, I simply don't know you, but those tattoos are killer, and I love your hair. Alex Mack puts things into perspective. PLD is like Damien from The Omen.
You're giving him too much credit, my dude.
I am the heel here.
I do want to say, I think it's hilarious when people say that they don't know me on this channel when I've been here much longer than
literally the longest
founder of this channel.
She's OJ. That's okay. All right, guys.
Rate us. That'd be much appreciated.
It would be.
Thanks for checking us out on our podcast right there. That's us on Apple, but you can find us on Anchor or all that good stuff. But please give us a rating. That'd be dope.
All right, my friends. As always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we salute you, buddy.
Thank you, Mukbang. We love you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.